This is the flip-top tool stand for which I originally published a YouTube video almost a year ago. And it's worked out pretty well. It serves me well. I use an oscillating spindle sander on the top and underneath a mortising tool. What I'm going to do is publish plans for this stand. So I've drawn up plans, good 3D plans, made a complete list of materials, dimensions in both imperial and metric dimensions. And what I'm going to do is build a replacement stand with my plans and video it as I go along and take a bunch of still pictures so that at the end of the project I should have plans, proven plans with proven measurements, and incorporate some improvements that overcomes some very minor deficiency with this stand. Number one, I'd like to put the door on hinges. Number two, there's an accessories drawer, but you can't open it unless the retracting casters are extended. So I need to be able to open it, have an accessories drawer, and I need to be able to open it whether the casters are extended or retracted. I've added a couple of handles to make it a little bit safer to tilt the tool. And if you look closely, to make clearance for the mortising tool when it's down, I've had to remove some material from the shelf. So I've sorted out the dimensions, so I won't have to do that on the plans built version. To tip it over, I need to remove the dust collection hose, some loose pieces. And in the original configuration, the table of the oscillating spindle sander stuck out so far that I couldn't close the door with the mortising tool up and the spindle sander down. So I had to extend the table a couple of inches, 5 centimeters, and move the spindle sander forward so that I'd have clearance to close it when the spindle sander was down. So the plans version will keep the same width, but be a couple of inches or 5 centimeters deeper. Of course, in my shop, one of the objectives is to have the minimum footprint for my tools. So this serves up pretty well, having two tools in a pretty small footprint, and yet it's useful configuration when either one is flipped up. So I'm going to go ahead and video and still photograph the procedures as I build a replacement stand and verify all the dimensions in my plans. I'm cutting out a couple of 16-inch or 40 centimeter strips that I can take over to my table saw sled and slice off for the appropriate lengths. So I'm using a saw guide, only 5 feet long, so I have to reset it to finish completing each cut. Used for the hand skill saw on one side or a router on the other side. I'm supporting the plywood sheets on sawhorses that have disposable inserts so I can cut right through them with the... I've repositioned my saw guide and I'll complete. Okay, I'm going to use my saw sled to cut the pieces for the top, bottom, shelf, and the side. I've got most of the pieces for the stand cut out. Sides with a hardwood strip glued on the front edge. A bottom piece, a shelf, hardwood strip glued to the front edge, a cabinet back, salvaged piece of plywood, a little discolored, a double layer top with hardwood strips to wrap it with. Around the bottom of the cabinet is skirts. Back, sides, and a front piece. The front piece has a slot for the caster extend retract pedal. And these will be mitered to wrap around the bottom of the cabinet. There's pieces for the drawer, back, front, sides, and the bottom. There's a door with stiffeners to glue around the inside edge. Inside the bottom skirts are a couple of boards to mount the retracting casters. They'll be joined together with a hinge and also a hardwood lever to extend out through the slot in the skirt for the latching pedal. And then we have the links for the flip top, a pair of long links, a pair of short links, and a couple of anchors that stand up behind the cabinet. I've removed my saw guard, installed a dado stack, same thickness as the caliper measurement of the shelf. Left and right worked out. The other thing we need to do here on each side is cut a rabbet on the lower back with the back. This is the main stand for the flip top tool stand. I should say the main cabinet consists of a floor, a shelf, two sides, and a back. It's just held together temporarily with clamps and cawls. The shelf is set into tight dado grooves, and the back is rabbeted into the back edges of the sides. As the tools flip, there has to be room for a tall tool to flip out of the front and room for the shorter tool, in my case the spindle sander, to flip out of the back. So the side can't extend all the way up. And then below this will be a skirt all the way around with the retracting casters. Now, to assemble this, I'm going to use screws installed through pilot holes from the top down into the sides of the shelf. 4 screws on each side, so I don't have screw heads showing on the outside. I'm going to drill holes at about a 20-degree angle, pilot holes at about a 20-degree angle for 4 screws on each side for the shelf. For the bottom, I'll simply install screws up from the bottom, but again, I'll install them at an angle so the screws cross some of the layers of wood in the plywood and don't tend to split the layers as the screws are installed. And the same thing with the back. I'll install the screws at about a 10-degree angle. This is the bottom of the cabinet, and I've marked where the sides will meet and where the back will meet the bottom. It's just going to be butt jointed. And I'm going to drill pilot holes from the top down. And for this, I'm going to set the drill press table at about 10 degrees. I'm drilling just outside the line that marks where the sides and the back will meet the floor. Countersink the holes on the bottom side. I'll use the same procedure for the back of the cabinet, drilling from the inside towards the outside of the back and then countersinking on the outside of the back. For the shelf, I've marked where how much of the shelf enters the dadoes of each side, and I've drilled holes at about a 20-degree angle for screws that will come through and go into the sides of the cabinet, and then countersunk on the top side of the shelf. I'm attaching the back to the sides and to the shelf with screws, and I'm going to drill pilot holes. Using the holes I drilled in the drill press in the back as a guide, I'm going to drill pilot holes down into the side. Okay, I finished installing screws from the back into the sides, and now I've upended the cabinet upside down, and I'm going to attach the base. And I'm just using a couple of clamps to hold the base aligned with the cabinet. And just like for the back and the shelf, I'm going to use the holes I drilled on the drill press as a guide and drill holes down into the back and into the sides. And then I'm going to install screws into the pilot holes. And I'll finish off the basic part of the cabinet. The top is made up of 2 pieces of 3/4 or 18 millimeter plywood glued together. I've used most of my inventory of plants and a couple of cauls to hold these 2 pieces together while the glue sets. Okay, there it is. I need to trim it to size yet. I'm going to square up 2 adjacent sides on my jointer. Check for square. And then I'm going to trim the top to size. So I've set my fence to 40 centimeters or 16 inches, depending on which measurements you're using. But I want the top to be 16 inches or 40 centimeters after it's wrapped with hardwood. So I'm just going to lay 2 pieces of hardwood against the fence and trim the top to size. These are the hardwood strips that I'm going to wrap the top with. I've ripped them so they're very close to the same width as the thickness of the top. And I put a 45-degree bevel on one end of each of the 4 pieces. And what I'm going to do now is bevel the opposite end with a length of exactly 16 inches or 40 centimeters, depending on which units you're using. To finish up the top, I've wrapped the double layer of plywood, that's double layer of 3/4 inch or double layer of 18 millimeter plywood, with hardwood strips, and I'm going to use repurposed bike inner tubes as the clamps. Up to this point, I've just dry fitted the wrapping, the hardwood strips that I've wrapped it with, and I'll admit that I've made each of the strips slightly oversized, and I've been trimming them down to the precise length on my disc sander. Then I'll glue the hardwood strips in place and clamp them with the rubber band clamps.